When I teach about Lincoln at Christopher Newport University, I often try to get my students to see Lincoln as more than just a politician, but to try to understand him as a human being. That he was a person who experienced life in ways that aren't always so different from how we experience life. He loved, he lost, he suffered with melancholy, what we would today call depression. He had breakups, he had rebounds. I mean, these are things that college students can relate to. And so I often have my students read Lincoln letters and documents and speeches, but before I give them the documents, I tell them about where Lincoln is in his life at the point when he gives this whatever speech he's given. And that way it's not just dry words on a page, but it's something being communicated by a real person. And so I say that as background for thinking about this letter, because when we look at this letter, it almost seems bizarre or callous, and some historians have used this to argue that it shows that Lincoln was indifferent towards the plight of enslaved people early in his life. And my interpretation of this letter is a little bit different. And when I look at this letter, I think about, well, what is going on in Lincoln's life outside of this experience? And, well, it's 1841. And those of you who know the story of Abraham Lincoln and Mary Todd and their courtship, you know that it was a rocky one. And they courted, and then they broke up, and then they got involved in a potential duel after writing some scandalous newspaper editorials. I mean, there's all this craziness going on in Lincoln's life. And in other correspondence that he wrote at this time, he talked about how he was the most miserable man on the face of the earth. And that if everyone in the world felt the way he felt, there'd be no happy person in the world. And my view of this letter is that Lincoln is not actually thinking about the enslaved people at all. He's so preoccupied with the fact that his courtship to Mary Todd has just fallen apart. And he's thinking, how can these people who have such a terrible plight in life be smiling and playing the fiddle, and why aren't they miserable like I'm miserable? I think he's completely self-absorbed, thinking about himself.